Okay, guys. So, it's been 5 minutes already, so let's get started. Uh, so today, as I told you on Slack, we're going to learn a new way of coding. There are a few more functions that we need to learn in the dplyr package for our data manipulation and whatnot. But today, we're not going to learn any new function from dplyr for data manipulation. But we're going to learn something that we'll keep using basically forever. Okay. Now, oh, you know a bit of French and Italian, Romina. That's really interesting. And Leonard is a development economist. Okay, working in international agriculture and non-government. Okay, NGOs. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, we have a great mix of different talents and knowledge and stuff like that. That's really great. So I'm really excited about the projects that we're going to work on. Actually, let me even say this. As you know, I often give you um, homework and stuff like that. But very soon, we're actually going to go a little beyond that. It's going to be projects. Like assign you a data set and ask you a bunch of questions without really like guiding you by holding your hand or anything like that. And then you guys will learn or use the knowledge that you have acquired. To do all these things basically. And we're going to do that once we hit the topic of reporting. If you remember well, we have this folder that we created here in flight analysis called reporting. We're going to be learning about reporting very soon. But we'll learn about visualization first. Okay, so that's basically the plan. We're going to be doing a lot of things. So hey guys, once again, I'm really happy that you're here. You guys are like family to me now, because we meet very often, twice a week. That's a lot more that I meet people, living in the same city as me right now because of the situation. Okay, so as I told you earlier, we are going to learn a new way of coding today. It's a very powerful way of coding, which is actually we're going to use that way of coding for the rest of our coding life in R, basically. Um, and it's really interesting. So we're not going to learn any new function, for data manipulation today. We're going to do it next time on Tuesday. But what we're going to learn today is extremely powerful. Okay, but before I continue, guys, the I made the solutions for the homework. So right after this, I'm going to post it on Slack and put it in the Dropbox folder that I made for everybody, so that you guys will be able to access it there. So this is it right here. Homework 3, day 7 solutions. Okay, so you guys will be able to compare your code with mine. Okay, so let's open our project. Okay, and of course, I am going to share my live code with you. Okay, guys, so as you know, whenever you open your project, the first thing you do is you load all 4 packages and you load the data sets. Okay, that's the first thing we do. Okay. All right, and then we can go to the very bottom of uh, our script. But actually, what I'm going to show you today, I think I kind of mentioned it last time. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be previous because it's... Uh-oh. It's not supposed to be in selection. Oh no, not plus. Okay, so remember a few live streams ago, Kinley asked me a question, and then I gave him this as an answer, and I used this, little operator here. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. We are going to be talking about this operator, which is called the pipe operator. Very powerful way of coding because it allows you to, chain your operations together, and then get to your result without having to create intermediate variables. And you will understand what I mean in a second. Now, if we go back to the very last question that we answered, the question was, which flight departing from Newark had the largest total delay? Okay, that was the question. So we did it in 3 steps. Step number 1, filter. Okay, because the flights departed from Newark, so that's the first step here. We use the filter function. The second step is to calculate total delay, and for that we had to compute departure delay, then arrival delay. Then we summed it up. We summed these two values up to get the total delay, right? That was step number 2. And then step number 3 was to arrange the resulting data set after step number 2 by, in descending order, by the column total delay. Okay, so these were 3 steps. Now for these 3 steps, you actually have to, create 2 intermediate variables. In this case, I created EWR data, then I created EWR data 2. Well, I created EWR data 3 here, which you might have to create if you want to save that final data set somewhere to use it later. And that's what you will have to do in an actual project. In our case, for most questions, we didn't really create a third variable simply because we just wanted to show the results. We just wanted to show the results on the in the console, and that's basically but in an actual project, that final data set, you want to keep it, you want to save it somewhere for some stuff. But the thing is, this kind of clutters your environment, because you see, for each of these questions we had to create variables, intermediate variables. And the thing is, look at this. The truth is that UALGA2, you are probably never going to use it again, and you might not even use UALGA at all, UALGA at all. But this last one is what you want to keep. So you're basically creating variables for nothing. Now, there's a very easy fix for that. The very easy fix for that is to use the same names in order to update the variables. What I mean is this. You see, if I had written flights here, so flights and then assignment operator and filter flights. So whatever the filter function will do, okay, would come as a way to update the old flights. Okay, so if you looked into flights after running this, if I had flights here, it will change everything that was in flights and would only keep all the flights departing from LaGuardia, operated by UA, and in the first half of the year. But as I told you some time ago, this is not really the best way of going about things. Whenever you have a data set, you want to be able to keep it as raw as possible, and any change that you do to it, you want to save it somewhere else, basically, but keep the data set as it is. And we didn't do it in this course, but in the future data sets that we will use together, we will apply what I personally do. So when I import a data set for the first time, the name that I give to that data set, I usually add the word raw after it. So if I was working on a project myself, I would call this flights underscore raw, airports underscore raw, airlines underscore raw, and stuff like that. Now, if there are changes that I want to make to this data set, then I would then save it into flights. Okay, so I would have flights, okay, then filter flights raw, and then do whatever I want with it. Okay, so whenever you have data that you take from outside, make sure that you don't replace the data. If you do anything to it, store it somewhere else so that your original data is kept there. Mary, you are very welcome. I hope that you're doing good. Okay, so again, the issue here is that we have so many, intermediate variables, but that fix actually works. If you keep, replacing the data in the same name, then you won't have to create too many intermediate variables. So that works too. And if you're using base R, which we'll talk about at some point, this is how you have to do things. But the other way of going about things is by using the pipe operator. Now for that, guys, we are going to use this for a moment. I would like to demonstrate it to you. Okay, so the pipe operator is % greater than %. Okay, and this is known as the pipe operator. Actually, I'm going to go back to my script right now and write it as a comment, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, and it's a new section, the pipe operator. Okay, and that's percent greater than percent, no spacing in between. It's one, it's one cohesive operator with no space in it. And we're going to add our 4 dashes because we want to make it as part of our table of contents. Let me decrease this because we don't really use it. Okay. And you see it's still under data manipulation. Okay, so we'll need to add, you see our little hack here, we need to add our subsection here because this is what we're going to be using. Okay, so let me show you the theory behind it, and then we'll go back to code. We've been using many functions, guys, okay? And this is a word that I've been using a lot, but I haven't really defined it. But I think that you were able to figure out that a function is simply an action that you are asking the system to take for you. For example, when you use the filter function, you are asking the computer, hey, I would like you to filter this data for me. Use these conditions to do so. When you use the arrange function, you are asking the computer to do this for you. Rearrange the entire data set according to specific columns. When you use the mutate function, what you're asking the computer to do for you is to, change existing columns or add new columns according to a certain, data manipulation that you want, any formula or anything like that, okay? And there are thousands and thousands of functions, guys, okay? So let's just say I'm not going to use a specific function. I'm just going to use f, okay? Like in mathematics, in algebra, function f, okay? And in R, of course, you have to give f some information, okay? Now, let me say that the argument of f, we're going to call it x, like this, all right? So f of x will be like filter, and then you add flights in it. Or arrange, and then you add planes, or I don't know, mutate, and then you add weather. Okay, so x here is the argument weather, or planes, or airports, or whatever. Okay, now f of x, okay, will give you a certain result, and of course, if you're using filter, you still need to add conditions to it. Without any condition, then what are you filtering? But that's not really the point here. Let's assume that this is a valid function, and this here works. Now, using the pipe operator, okay, just allows you to take the argument out of the function and have it still work. What I mean is this. This is equivalent to doing this. So basically taking the argument out, then pipe operator, and then the function without the argument inside. So again, let me just do this here. It's like we've taken the argument out of the function like this. Okay, now if you run this in R or you run that, okay, they are exactly the same things. Okay, they are exactly the same thing. So this is exactly what the pipe operator does for you. All right, now what if we have a function with many arguments in it? How will the pipe operator work? Actually, all the functions, or most functions that we've talked about so far, they have many arguments. So if we take filter, the first argument could be flights, the second argument could be dest equals LGA, or dest equals LAX, if you want a destination to be Los Angeles. Okay, so if you have, let me go back to back, X, Y. Okay, so that's 2 arguments. So the first one will be flights, and then dest equals LAX. All right, if you use the pipe operator, well, what the pipe operator does is that it allows you to always take out the first argument. So if you have many arguments, it's always the first one that you can take out. So this would be the same as doing X, writing X in your code, then pipe, okay, then f of y, because that's the second argument which you cannot really take out like that if you use the pipe operator. Okay, so these 2 lines of code there are perfectly equivalent. All right, let's look at a function with n operators, so n arguments, I'm sorry. So x, y, z, and a bunch of things. Okay. Actually, when I teach you to write functions in R, this is an argument in R. Dot dot dot. It's a very powerful argument. We'll learn how to use this. But this is equivalent again to taking the first argument out, x, pipe operator, f of y, z, dot dot dot. Okay. Well, guys, I don't think there's anything too difficult. And guys, once again, this is supposed to be z in where I grew up, which is a French-speaking country. You know, we always, you know, kind of cross the z out like that. It's actually how we write 7 generally too, by crossing it out like that. Okay, so all these are equivalent. So there's really nothing too difficult that I've showed. Basically, I just said that if you use the pipe operator, it just allows you to take the first argument out of the function, pipe, then the name of the function, and then the rest of the arguments. But of course, the question would be, why on earth would we want to do that? Because, hey, if I just write f of x, y, z, dot, 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 I mean, that's it. You know, I just write it instead of just adding more things to type. You know, why would we want to add more things to type, like that pipe operator? Why would we want to do that? Okay, guys, I'm sure that that's your question, but please hold your question for now, and you will see how powerful this approach to coding, especially using, you know, the packages that we've been talking about, dplyr and the others. You will see how powerful this is, guys. Now, let me do this now. Let's take. Okay, when we learned mutate for the first time, okay, let's look at this question here. Which flight to LAX operated by American Airlines had the largest departure delay in the month of May? Oh, let me close this. Oh, okay, yeah, that was just for the search. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to, okay, I have a small software here, which I'm going to use to take a screen capture. I thought I could. I'm just going to copy and paste that code, and I'm going to send it to my, you know, the note-taking app, which is OneNote, Microsoft OneNote. Okay, so I'm just going to save this. Can I just copy it? I can't. I need to save it on my hard drive and then go get it. Okay, pipe operator picture. Okay, so let me now go back to this. Yeah, this happens sometimes. I'm not really sure why. Okay. All right, just give me a quick second. I'm now trying to go to my pictures. Oh no, that was OneDrive. So I need to look for the right one. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? This is where I saved it though. Okay, it's right here. Of course, it's small. I'm gonna have to make it much bigger for you guys to see. Okay, I believe that you guys can see it now. Okay, perfect. So let's continue. Now, I would like for you guys to really, you know, realize a certain pattern in the functions that we've been using so far, especially the functions for data manipulation. I would like for you to realize this, ladies and gentlemen. When we learned about the filter function, the first argument here of the filter function is the data, okay? Then you add your conditions. That's how to use filter. When we learned about the arrange function, the first argument there was the data, and then every other, like the names of the columns that you want to use to rearrange, or if you want in descending order, you can specify it too. That's how we went about it. Then with the mutate function, it was actually the same thing as well. You know, the first one was the data, and then everything else basically was added, right? Okay, now the first argument is always the data in the functions in the dplyr package, and you can actually see it here. Okay, I think I'm going to have to use a different color. See, for filter we added the data, okay, flights. But then for the next step, which was mutate, the data that we needed to mutate was the data created by the first step. And in the last step, the data that we used for the arrange function is the data created in the second step. So you see there's a continuation, and that's why all these steps were done in order like that. Okay. Now this can actually be this can be simplified by using the pipe operator. Now I'm going to show you how. Okay, so let's assume that we already have. Okay, now let's actually look at the first line of code here with the filter function here. Okay, well, basically, if you use the pipe operator on this first line, it means that it is possible for you to take that flight, which is the first argument, out of the function and then use the pipe operator. Okay, it will work. But the thing is, when you go to the next line with AALAX, AALAX actually happens to be this entire line of code. Okay, it is this entire line of code, and it happens to be the first argument in the mutate function. So you can actually add another pipe operator, and if you add that second pipe operator, it is actually going to assume that mutate is using everything before it. Now, right now it's a little abstract, but please just follow, and I will just say the same words later, and it will make more sense. But just realize that this, okay, AALX is the result of this entire line of code here. So you can use a pipe operator, which will basically take everything before mutate and force it into mutate. In the same way, you can use another pipe operator so that the AALAX2, okay, instead of specifying, you can use a pipe operator which will take everything before arrange and force it inside. Okay, now let us actually get coding because this is where it's actually going to make even more sense to you. So I'm switching to my code. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to rewrite, copy and paste the comment there. And actually you can copy and paste the two lines, okay, the comment and the first line here. And we'll actually paste the other lines later. So which flight to LAX operated by American Airlines had the largest departure delay in the month of May? Okay, so instead of saving it in anything in AALX, let's just remove that first part there. Okay, and as I told you, the pipe operator allows you to take the first argument out. So what you can do is you can remove the flights argument from inside and you remove that comma too. And you can place it in front of the whole line and then add pipe, percent greater than percent. Okay. So this is actually going to work. It's going to give you the exact same result. Okay, and actually let me run it so that you guys can see it. So you have 304 values here. Okay, 304 rows, I mean. Okay, so this definitely works. And just to prove it, you can actually go back to AALX and then select the filter part and then run that filter part only, and you'll see that it's the same 304, which kind of gives a hint that, okay, the two are the same because the pipe allowed us to take it out. All right. Okay, now we're not done because there are two more steps. And again, we're going to use the pipe for these two steps here. Okay. Now, what I like doing, and that's what most people here do, people using the pipe operator, this is what they do. After any pipe operator, they break a line like that. Again, this is for the sake of code readability. Okay, now when you look at this second line, remember that AALX is actually the result of all this. Okay, it is the result of all this, right? So instead of saving the first step, let's just copy the mutate part, okay, without the variable. Let's just copy the mutate part. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add another pipe operator after filter, okay, break a line, and then paste the mutate part there. And actually, let's take out the name of the variable at first. Okay, so we just take the name of the variables out. Like you see, it starts with the arguments inside. Okay, let's try to check what is happening. And by the way, if you run it, it works. Okay, and what you see here is exactly the 304 variables that you see there, but we now have a departure delay column at the very end here. Okay, we now have a departure delay, which means that it worked. But then the first thing that you notice here is there was no intermediate variable. It was a chain of actions, okay? And then it follows the theory behind the pipe operator, which I basically explained to you. You see filter here, okay? Because of this pipe operator, the pipe again means, I'm going to go back to this. The pipe here means take what comes before me and add it as the first argument of the function after me. Okay, just like we did here. Take the argument x before me and add it as the first argument of the function after me. So it is equivalent to f x and y. Okay, going back to my code. So this basically says take the argument before me, which is flights, and add it as the first argument in the function's filter. So if the pipe operator does it, then it means that it is exactly equivalent to the actual filter, the first filter that we wrote when we met last time. It's exactly the same. Now, what about the second pipe operator? What does it mean? Well, the second pipe operator means take everything before me, which is LAX, or AA_LAX. Take everything before me and add it as the first argument of the function after me. So you see, what goes into mutate is flights that has been filtered. So after it has been filtered, it is then transferred to mutate as the first argument. And that's exactly what we do by hand when we do this, okay? Because LAX is essentially the flights data that has been filtered, and now we store it in AALX and then we add it here. Does that make sense, guys? I hope it does, because this is extremely powerful. Okay? Now, let's do the last one now. We're going to copy, arrange, okay? And of course, we add another pipe because we need to link that second step to the third step. Okay? And once again, we just take out the first argument. All right. So that second pipe operator, this is what it means. It basically means take everything before me, which is the flights data, which has been filtered, and on which has been filtered, and on which has been added a column called departure delay. Okay, take all this and add it as the first argument of the arrange function. Okay, which is essentially this right here, AA_LAX2. So add it right here, and then add the column by which you want to, to reorder, and actually it's going to be in descending order here, and that's departure delay. Okay, so this is basically how to use the pipe operator. It allows you, instead of having to create intermediate variables, it just allows you to, chain your operations together. And then at the very end, I'm now going to run this. Okay, and yes, the live code is syncing. Okay, so when I run this now, you can see that this is basically the result that I'm looking for. You see that the data set is not in order anymore. It doesn't start from January 1st and whatnot. Okay, it's not in order anymore because it's been rearranged here. Okay, so this is how to use the pipe operator, and we are going to be using it from now on, actually, because it's going to make our life so much easier. Okay, so what we're going to do now is let's see. Okay, let's try now to convert this code here and this code right here. Let's try to convert this code using the pipe operator. Okay, let's try to do that. So now we have, let me just copy and paste everything. Okay, might be useful. Okay, actually, let's just leave it here so that we can have the old code and the new code together, you know, for comparison's sake. Okay, so we start with the filter function. And for the first one, you don't really have to, you know, oh, what am I doing? You don't really have to take the data out, but I usually do it because it allows me to read better. Okay, to read my code better. Okay, so flights is here, then pipe, and on RStudio it's when you break a line after the pipe operator, it's usually going to create an indent like that, an indentation, which is something that you want because you know that's little indentation is telling you that you are basically still working on the same chain of operations. So that's pretty good to know. Okay, so that's for the first one. Then pipe, instead of creating another variable with the arrow and stuff like that, okay, I just use mutate, paste it here, remove the data, because that's what the pipe operator is doing here. It's saying take everything before me and use it inside mutate, okay, and add airtime to it. All right, and then the last one, pipe operator, then arrange, and of course we remove this. Okay, still syncing. Okay, and that's the results of my chain of operations. And if you compare this here to what you would get by running these 3 lines of code, so we have 3,886. So let me just run all this, and of course it's going to create these 2 variables here. Okay, 3,886. So these 2 lines of code are exactly the same. Okay, this one again abstracts the necessity of creating variables in the middle. Okay, so before actually looking at the last one, the last example here, I would like to tell you how I personally read this. Again, this is known as the pipe operator, but I read it as and then. Okay, and then, because it actually makes things more logical. Okay, they are more fluid in our mind. Okay. This is what I would like you to do. Use the flights data set and then filter it using carrier, you know, AA, destination, LAX, and month equals 5, and then add a new column called departure delay, and this is how I want you to calculate departure delay. And then, because that's the last one, maybe I would say, and finally, right, rearrange the resulting data set from the last step here, rearrange everything using the newly created column called departure delay in descending order. Let me do the same for the code that we just wrote. This is what I would like you to do. Take the flights data set and then filter it by origin LaGuardia, carrier UA, and it has to be, the data has to be in the first half of the year 2013. And then I want you to create a new column called airtime, and this is how I want you to you know, calculate the values in this column, and then rearrange everything using airtime. You see, guys, this is much nicer, this is much more logical, and not that this is not logical or anything like that, it is, you know, but this is more fluid, you know, and again, it abstracts from using intermediate variable. Now, if you want to store all this in a variable, yes, this is important because you don't want the result to be just displayed in the console. You want to save it somewhere to do work with it, right? Yes, you can do that. I am actually going to add it here, UALGA. So if I run the first one here, you know what? Let me just put it in a different variable so that all our variables are kept. So UA underscore LGA underscore pipe, okay? And I can run it like this. And, okay. So when I run it, that's it. Okay, so you basically need to put it in the first step, like this. And it's going to work. All right. But what I personally do, especially when I have long chains of operations, because they can actually become pretty long, uh, I even like to break a line after this assignment operator here. This is how I do it sometimes. Let me do it on the first example here. What I personally do is this. I would write the name of the variable that I want to create. We call it AA underscore LAX. So AA underscore LAX pipe. Okay. Then the assignment operator. And from there, I would actually go ahead and break a line. Actually, in the system of R, all this is considered as one, chunk of code. Actually, you see, I can put my pointer here, okay, and if I run this line of code, it's going to run, okay, all the way from this to that. Okay, let me show you. I'm going to put my pointer here, and when I do this, you see AALAX pipe, which did not exist before, now exists all of a sudden. Okay, so that's what I do. That's when I have long lines of code. But you can keep it like that too. It's perfectly fine. You will see me use them interchangeably. So you don't have to use this. If you don't like it, you can just do it like that, where the name of the data at least is on the same line as the name of the variable that you're trying to create. All right, guys, let's look at the last example here. Okay. All right, this should actually be much faster now for you guys. Hopefully you understand how all this works. Computer, this is what I would like for you to do for me. Use the flights data set, and then I want you to filter it. The condition for filtering is I want all the flights departing from Newark. And then I have a bunch of things that I want you to compute for me. Bunch of variables that I want you to compute. Okay, so I just copied and pasted all the mutate, but once again I have to remove the data here. So this is what I end up with. And I told you that inside the function, after every comma, it is possible to break a line. And that's what we're doing here. So all this is the actual, this is only the mutate function that started here. So we haven't actually gotten out of mutate in these lines right here. And I think I showed it to you last time. When you put your pointer on the right hand side of a parenthesis, it highlights the matching parenthesis. Okay, just like if I put it here, it will highlight the matching parenthesis. If I put it there, it will highlight the matching parenthesis. But that's a neat way for you to know if your parentheses are indeed the way they're supposed to be. Okay, so the last, and then we can now arrange everything by total delay in descending order. And if I want to save everything in a variable, I can just add that variable name at the very beginning here, and it's going to work. But let me just run it just for you guys to see. And that's it right here. The highest total delay was February 24th. Okay. So that's the pipe operator in a nutshell, guys. And this is what we're going to be using from now on, because I'm going to teach you other functions. And these functions that I'm going to teach you are going to be used, in many cases in conjunction with filter, arrange, mutate, and whatnot, right? So if we have to do all this in a chained fashion, the pipe operator is really what you want to use. Now, sometimes you want to create intermediate variables. It depends on what you're trying to do. If the intermediate step you feel is important and you're going to use that intermediate step in the future, then store it in a variable. That's fine. What I mean by that is, let's assume that you are going to do a lot of work, a lot of different types of analysis on all the flights departing from Newark. Okay, if you're going to do that, then maybe it's going to be a good idea for you to save a special data set, a special variable in which you're going to in which that filtered data is going to be. Okay, so it's really up to you. Okay, Now, before the last part of this recording, actually today is going to be short. I don't want to teach you any other function today. I just wanted to teach you the pipe operator, and then we're going to talk about a few shortcuts. That's going to be the last part of this recording today. But sometimes you are asked to perform functions. You're asked to perform tasks that don't require chained operations. In cases like that, you may want to use the pipe or not. Now I'm so used to the pipe that even for tasks that require only one step, I tend to use the pipe. What I mean by that is this. Okay, so maybe I want all planes that were manufactured before 1990. Okay, maybe that's what I want. Okay. Well, the traditional way of doing this would be, that's a filtering question, right? Filter, okay, then I have the planes data set, and the year, that's the name of the column that has the year of manufacture, so the year is before 1990. Okay, that's how you would do it actually. So if you saw that in a homework, this is how you would do it. Okay, now if you want to use the pipe, it's actually very possible to do it. You would do planes. That's the first argument that you take out. Okay, Kinley, are you just saying that you are now live? If you are, if that's what you're saying, then welcome. If you're telling me that the live code is not working, I'm not sure, but hey, welcome, Kinley. This is the first message that I'm seeing from you, so welcome. Okay, so planes, you can do it. You take the first argument out, then pipe, and then filter, and only the condition. Okay, less than 9090. You can do that. Okay, okay, you can do that if you want. All right. So when you don't have chain operations, again, there's no right or wrong way, to be honest. Okay. So this is only one line of code, so you may want to do it the normal way, or you may want to take it out. Okay, some people would actually want to break a line like this and then save it into a variable. Hey, if that's what your thing is perfectly fine. Oh, so Kinley says, oh yeah. Okay, yes, okay, because you can't see the chat before you came. Oh, Romina, thank you very much. I was going to do it, but thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically how to use the pipe. So from now on, guys, we are going to use the pipe a lot, as I told you, and for all the other things that we're going to be using, the pipe is going to be is going to be helpful to make our life slightly easier. So you see, instead of creating 3 variables after this, we just create 1 variable, and that's the end result of everything, and that's perfect. Okay, guys, so having said that, this is what I wanted to show you today. Next, let's look at a few what do you call it, useful shortcuts when you use RStudio. Okay, there are some shortcuts that are going to make your life easier, just like the pipe operator. And you might actually want to be, to know them so that you are more efficient when you're working with RStudio. And I'm going to do it, from time to time, have you guys, or teach you guys some shortcuts or some techniques that are going to make your life easy. Number one, before even looking at the shortcuts, as you can see, coding is basically writing text, right? So being able to type fast is really important. Okay, it is actually very important. So there are, if you don't know how to type fast, learning it, trying to get this as one of your skills is going to be extremely important. So there's going to be a giveaway very soon, and it's going to be a giveaway to one code, okay, that is actually going to give you access to a paid software, okay, a paid software for learning how to type. And the giveaway is going to be like this. We're going to use the people that want to enter that giveaway will provide the names, okay, and we're going to put the names in some sort of table, like a data set, and we're going to let R decide, okay, who is getting the code to the typing software. But then the names of the people, I would love for you guys, if you already know how to type fast, please, do not, hinder people who don't know how to type fast from getting access to that page software. So if you already know how to do it, maybe you learned it in the past, please refrain from adding your name. But hey, we're going to talk about that. Okay, so learning how to type fast is important. Learning shortcuts too is important. So personally, I won't say I rarely, but I don't like using the mouse when I'm doing work on my computer. That's why learning shortcuts is so important. So I, for the most part, stay on my keyboard, and I do almost everything on my keyboard. Of course, the mouse is important because you can click where you want, but if you know these shortcuts, is going to be very, very useful. All right, guys, so this is a very special subsection that we're going to create again. Now, these special subsections, you know what? Maybe we could, instead of adding this as actual subsections in our progression, let's just change this with tilde, just to say that this is slightly different from what we've been doing. These are just some interesting ways of going about things. All right. Okay. A few shortcuts in RStudio. Okay, and they are all going to be comments basically. Okay, so let's do it in about 10 to 15 minutes, maybe less, and let's call it a day basically. Okay. Well, the first shortcut that is Control Enter. Okay, now let me say Control/Command Enter. Okay. This will run, okay, code and move pointer to the next line. This is something that you already know, right? But if you use Alt Enter, it will run your code and leave pointer on the same line. Okay, so that's the main difference. It depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, if you want to move to the next line after running your code or stay on the same line, you can use whatever you want. Okay, all right. Now another shortcut that we learned was Control plus L. Control plus L will clear your console. Let me do it right now. You see in my console I have all this, but I may want to clear my console. It's just like you're using a board and then you wipe the board or something like that. And I remember telling you some time ago that clearing out your console is it's not a bad thing to do. The most important thing is writing correct code, because if you have the code, you can always produce what you cleared out from the console. All right. So I just cleared out this right here. So because I have the code, I can always get it back, right? So the code is what you want to cherish and write well and format well. Okay. All right. So Control L will do that for you. Now there's another shortcut that I showed you, which is for commenting. So Control plus C is used for comment and uncomment text. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so you see my pointer is on this line right now, and it is a comment. It's not Control C, I'm sorry, it's Control Shift C. Control Shift C. And Mac users, I'm sorry, I kind of forgot about you for a second here. Let me add Control/Command here. Okay, so Control Shift C, if I use it on this line like this, you see, I just uncommented it, and when I use it on the same line, I just commented it. So this is very practical, and guys, you see, this is actually a very powerful way of doing things, especially when you use it in conjunction with a pipe operator. I do it all the time. So I'm going to show it to you right here. Let's assume that I want to compute departure delay, arrival delay, total delay, but I want to compute it on the entire flights data set. I don't want to use it on the filter. I don't want to use it on the filtered version, and I just want to check what it looks like. Okay. So basically the filtered function is what I want to remove. So instead of deleting it, okay, I can just comment this line of code. So this pipe is now going to link flight to mutate, right? So the flight function is going to be inserted right here as the first argument in mutate. So when I run this code now, okay, you see now it has everything. Okay, I can't see origin. So I'm going to make it small. Just a second, guys. All right. I have origin. So you see, I have LaGuardia, I have JFK. You know, so that's a very powerful way of doing things, right? And if I want to go back to the old, you know, filtered data before mutating, where is it? Where is it actually? I can't even remember where I did it. Where I commented it. Oh, it's right here. Okay, right here. Okay, so if I want to include it again, okay, I can just uncomment it, and if I run it, now you see new work, new work, new work, new work, new work, new work. Okay, all right. Let me. Oops, my bad. Let me just get it to the font size that I used earlier. Okay, so that's it for commenting and uncommenting text. Now, for formatting your code, okay, you can use control. It's actually control or command plus I. Okay, formatting code or format. Okay, I've been using the this form instead of the continuous form. So format code. You know, as I told you, the indentations and stuff like that, you know, they are quite important for readability's sake. Guys, coding is writing a lot of text. So when you are faced with a wall of text, well, sometimes it's not that evident, you know, to get what you are trying to do here. But when the code is formatted, it is very helpful. It is very helpful when the code is formatted. Okay, and actually when it comes to readability, you see I showed you how to make the background dark by going to tools, global options, and then appearance, right? So these editor themes, they actually show you the color code for your script, you know, like the one that I'm using and that many of you are using too because you like the dark background is pastel on dark. So you see for comments, this is the color for comments. If you're using a function, this is the comment, the color. If you're using, you know, text in quotations, this is the color, it's green, and so on and so forth. Okay, but then when you change the kind of like Monokai, for example, is a dark background, but then the color coding is different. So these colors are extremely helpful, guys. Very, very helpful because they allow us to kind of recognize things in our code, and it allows us to, you know, read our code slightly better. So this is something that you might want to consider too. But indenting and formatting is really important. Now let me go back to this, and you see with the mutate, let's assume that everything was on the same line like this. You see, to me, when I see this now, when everything is on the same vertical, you know, the same vertical line, if you want, okay. To me, because I'm so used to indentation, to me these are 6 separate lines of code. Okay, that's what it looks like to me. But the way they were formatted earlier, okay, allowed me to know that okay, this is one cohesive chain of operations. Okay, so how can I get back to it? You know, you can just select everything and then use Control I. You see, and when you use Control I, everything is indented automatically like that. So the reason why I know that this is one cohesive chain of operations is because I have flight, which is the farthest to the left, and there's nothing below it. And the next one that I see is this. So now I know that this and that are two different operations, basically, because on the same line they are, because they are on the same vertical line. So these are two different operations. So Control I, guys, is magical. And for those of you who have not used my formatting, maybe you didn't really know how to go about it and you want to use the formatting that I have. If you didn't copy and paste my code from the live code, it's very simple. Just select everything with Control A. Okay, this selects my entire code, or Command A, and then Control I. It's actually going to format everything that you skipped, or maybe you forgot to format or anything like that is going to format everything, especially the indentations and stuff like that. So this is a very powerful way of going about things. Okay, guys, let's learn a few more, and then that's going to be it. Now, personally, I like, I misspelled control here. It's CTRL. Okay. Now, I like using Control or Command R. Okay. New code section. Like this. Okay. So, remember what we said about starting a new section? We said that we needed to add, 4 dashes, okay, to create a new section. All right. But actually, there's this right here. This shortcut allows you to do the same, but it will actually add more than 4 dashes, okay? And it's actually at least 4 dashes to create a new section. It will add more than 4 dashes. Now, let me put my pointer here and just I'm going to test it out for you. So Control R. Oh, is it Control Shift R? Yes, it is. So let me just add it. Control or Command plus Shift plus R. Okay, and I put my pointer here and Control Shift R. So section label. So whatever name I want for my section, this is where I'm going to put it. So guys, the next function that we're going to learn is the summarize function. So we can actually start by writing that name here. Actually, we're not going to do any code, but let's use this shortcut to write this. So summarize. Now, if you are in an English-speaking country where summarize is written with an S instead of a Z, and actually if you're in that other speaking country, you would say Z instead of Z, okay? So if you use Z instead of S instead of Z, then it actually works too. The two functions work in the dplyr package. Okay, so summarize. But of course, I live in the USA, so I'm going to use Z or Z. Okay, so summarize column like we've been doing, and we're going to call it. This is going to be for summarizing data. And this is a subsection, so we're going to add our greater than symbol here, and it's going to create it for us. You see, it was created automatically, as you can see. And of course, the big question is, why did they add so many dashes like that? I mean, we've been using 4 only. Why they need to create so many dashes? Well, it's good that many dashes like that are created, because when you are scrolling through your code, you see with 4 dashes only, it's kind of difficult to spot your sections. Of course, you can always go here and then select the section that you want. And actually, this is the summarize function that we have here. But when there are many dashes, you'll see it right away. Like, okay, this was at the very bottom, but you will see it right away. Okay, so I personally use it a lot for main sections. Of course, summarize is a subsection. So for subsections, I will only use 4. But for main sections, I will use Control Shift R with all this. Now, the great thing about Control Shift R is this. Now, you see, I put my pointer at the bottom here, and let me create another one. I'm going to create another random section. And you see, the number of characters in another random section is less than the number of characters here, but our studio will automatically, add as many dashes as needed to get to the same level here, you see. And that's pretty neat. Okay, that's pretty neat. Okay, so again, I am not personally going to use Control Shift R with all these dashes for a subsection, but when we'll go to the next section, actually the section we're talking about right now is data manipulation with the dplyr package. Okay, when we get to that next stage, that's when I'm going to have all this, because I like my sections separated like that. So let me just reduce it to 4. And just so you know, this is something else too that I want to add is you can make your comments, those section labels, you can make them with the equal symbol as well. You see, I added 4 equal symbol and then it adds it here as a section. Okay, you can do it with dashes, you can do it with the equal symbols. Can we do it with tilde? No, we cannot. There's a fourth one, right? I can't. I think there's a third one I wanted to say. There's a third one. We have dashes, we have equal, and I believe there's a third one, even though I don't remember correctly. But yeah, guys, this is how we're going to be managing our code. So let me just remove that other random section. Okay, this is the last pair of shortcuts that I want to show you. Control Command +1. Okay, move to script. Actually, I'm going to paste. Control Command 2, move to console. Okay, so how do we use this? Fairly simple. I don't know if you've realized it, but let's say that I want to run this line of code again, or this set of operations. When I run it, I have all this in my console. But I don't know if you realize it, but whenever you clear out your console with Control L, it takes your pointer straight to your console, which is very convenient. I remember many years ago, I sent a tweet to our studio asking them why is it that they would move the pointer to the console after clearing out the console. So I thought that it wasn't a good feature, and I asked them to change it. Okay. But it is good because the idea behind it is you're clearing out the console because you would like to do something with the console really quick. Okay, but if for some reason after doing it you want to move back to where you were in your script, then you can use Control 1 or Command 1. That's what the move to script is. So let me just do it. Control 1. You see, it takes me straight here. My pointer was here when I press Control Enter, and because it takes me to the next valid line of code in R. Okay, so Romina is saying that command 1 or 2 doesn't work. So maybe it's different for Mac, but don't worry about it. We'll figure it out in a second. Okay, and let me just explain this real quick. So you see, it took me back to where I was. Okay, let me try it. I'm going to put my pointer in the middle here. When I press Control 2, it takes me to... Oh, it's Control 1 and 2 instead. Okay, perfect. Okay, so if that works, then let me just remove command. Okay, so Romina is saying that it's Control instead of command on the Mac. Okay, thank you. Well, it's great to have a Mac user here so that, whatever my theory about Macs is, you are going to try and let me know if my theory is true or not. Okay, so it's Control. All right, so once again, I wanted to test it out. I'm going to put my pointer here. Control 2 will take me to the console. Control 1 will take me back to where my pointer was in the script. Okay, so that's pretty neat. And there are a ton more nice features like that when you work with our studio. And there are a lot more, guys. And to prove it to you, let's go to Tools. Okay. And let's go to Keyboard Shortcuts Help that you can also get with Alt-Shift-K, like this. And then you have all these, people, all this. So I use quite a few of them, to be honest. As I said, I don't like going back to my mouse when I'm doing work. But yeah, I use quite a few of them. So if you are interested, you can go through this and look at the ones that you want to use. But I am going to share with you the ones that I use quite often. And if you want to create your own shortcuts, it is actually very possible. Tools, and instead of Keyboard Shortcut Help, you can go to Modify Keyboard Shortcuts. And this is where, there are a bunch of things that you can do, and you can just modify it. I actually modified about 2 of them, personally. Okay, so it wouldn't actually make too much sense, to not show you this, how to write the pipe operator, which we're going to use a lot now. It is Control plus Shift plus M. And I think that you're going to have to use command for this one. But please try it, Romina, and then let us know. Let me just add it here. Pipe operator, which is, I'm going to do it using the shortcut actually. And this is actually going to use, it's going to add a space, pipe, and then space again. So that's really interesting. So you don't need to put a space manually if you don't want to. So Control Shift N for the pipe operator. Guys, this is what I had for you today. The main goal of today was really to introduce you to the pipe operator. And Kinley, I actually mentioned your name before you came. I went back to the question that you asked, about calculating a mean. Okay, and that's where I showed you the pipe operator for the first time. So you should be able to understand this now, even though, okay, so Romina is saying it's control for Max. Okay, so you should be able to read this. Weather. Okay, so use the weather data set and then filter it using month is equal to 1. So filter it using the month of January and then summarize. So for the summarize part, we're going to talk about it when we meet on Tuesday. Okay, so the homework for today, guys, is very simple. Please go back to homework 2 and 3 and rewrite all your code if you have time. Rewrite all the code that you wrote there using the pipe operator. Okay, now I am so used to the pipe operator now that when I wrote your solutions, I actually wrote your solutions using the pipe operator without even thinking that, hey, I haven't actually taught them how to use the pipe operator yet. Let me show you the solutions for homework 2. This is called an R Markdown file. So it's created by going to, instead of R script, you create an R Markdown, and I'm going to teach you when we talk about reporting. But basically, it is a combination of text and code. All right, and that's how I make your homework actually. So all the homework that you get, whenever you see them, the solutions are in there, but they are just hidden. So this is the actual homework here. You see, this is the first code that I wrote, but I just set include false and eval false, meaning that I don't want the final PDF that's going to be created from this to contain this code here, but instead of doing JFK December filter and then using JFK December inside a range, I just did everything with the pipe operator basically. All right, so the solutions with the pipe operator are there. Okay, I'm not sure whether I have to post it or not. Maybe I'm just going to create the code there. I'm just going to make it visible and then repost the solution so that you guys can compare it. But it should not be difficult for you to do. But this is definitely going to be your homework, guys. So go back and rewrite all your codes there using the pipe. It's going to be very good practice because we are going to move to the pipe operator, to using the pipe operator from now on. Guys, I'm now waiting for a few questions if you have any. And if you don't, I'm going to wish you a wonderful rest of your weekend and, make an appointment with you on Slack for the time being, and definitely on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if everything worked for you too, please tell us in the chat that everything worked perfectly for you.